Hi, Bill here with 30 Minute Woodshop. Thanks for joining. So if you followed some of my previous videos, you see I've been doing some things on D&D and gaming accessories. You saw me make this dice rolling tray. I prefer a rolling tray rather than just one of the drop trays. Gives me a little more room. You also may have seen me do this dice vault. Pretty cool little dice vault here out of maple. So today what I want to show you is how to make a dice rolling cup. All right, this is going to be made out of this piece of cedar 4x4, which is not really 4x4 by the way. I'll show you how to make this without using a lathe. And that's kind of the important point here. You don't need a lathe to make one of these, and it's pretty cool. So if you go in the bottom, hit see more, you'll find a link to my blog. In that blog there's a dimension sketch that'll give you all the setup for all this so you can follow along or you can build it yourself. On that note, let's start making. The first thing we need to do is to mark the center. So I'm using this nice little Rockler center finder. I'll put a link in the bottom to something like this or maybe even this one. But all it does, normally you can just strike a line across the corners, but these corners are rounded. So it makes it a little more difficult. There's a 90-degree angle here, a little place in here where you can put a line. So you throw it on, mark it. Now I normally mark it on all four corners because these things are not always square. And you can't see it, but there's about a 1/16 of an inch difference in that one. And that's pretty close. They're about the same, so it makes it much easier. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a center here. And this is a bird cage awl. What that means, it has four sides to it. It's a four-sided pyramid. So it's made for making a hole. Push it in, turn it a few times, and you actually bores a very small hole there. So this is where my drill point's going to go. Okay, with that done, let's go down to the drill press. I have a 2 1/8 inch forger bit chucked up, and I have the piece retained by blocking on both sides and the fence in the back, so it's not going to go anywhere when I start drilling. So let's start making a hole. So one thing you may not be able to see here is what you saw before would look like smoke is actually steam. So it's condensated here on this cold chuck. There's still beads of it here, starting to dry out finally. But this cedar's been in my garage for 2 years. Inside, been cycled through summer and winter a couple times, and just coming off of winter, so we're here in early summer in Michigan. But you can still see there's a heck of a lot of moisture still in this wood. Anyway, just to give you an idea. All right, we've drilled down 3 inches, so that's absolutely perfect. Now we're ready to start doing some more cutting on this. Let's head back out to the table saw. You saw me earlier just chopping off the corners, setting my table saw to a 45, and then running this through. So I chopped it off the 4 corners and then the 4 remaining corners, so I have this octagon. What I want to do now is take these sharp corners. You don't have to do this, you could just sand them down a little bit and call it good. But I'm going to take a block plane here. This is a pretty sharp block plane, and I'm just going to knock these corners down a little bit and get it a little more round than it is. Just to ease the corners and make it look a little round. So after that, we have a really nice edges and corners. Feels really nice and smooth. Do a little more sanding on this thing, and then I think we're ready for some finish. If you remember back to the beginning, the wood I chose for this is cedar. So cedar's really soft. Don't need to do a lot to it. I'm using 220. Matter of fact, a very old piece of 220, just to get it all nice and smooth around the corners and edges. A little bit on the inside until I'm happy with it, which I don't really care that much about the inside. It's a little on the rough side. But making the edges done, and then all around this rim to try and make sure that the end grain is nice and sanded off so it's nice and smooth. So after a minute or two of this, maybe 3, I'm switching over to 320. So the 320 is actually perfect for this because it'll take this and make it a nice smooth finish. So when I put on the finish and you hold this in your hand, it'll feel nice and silky smooth, which is really what I'm looking for. So a little more hand sanding and we should be ready for some finish. All right, we're closing in on this project. I've got this Minwax semi-gloss polyurethane. I'm using polyurethane on this for a couple reasons. One is I want a harder finish or a thicker film. I finished sanding down to 320. I'm going to put this polyurethane on. I'm just going to wipe it on. But this is going to suck up the finish. And I do mean suck it up. So as I throw it on, I'm going to have to throw probably several coats because the first couple coats, first coat for sure is going to be just sucked right into the wood. Not a problem. I think it's going to be perfect for me because the extra film is going to make it a little more durable. Now you could choose to put anything you want on this, even oil. And an oil finish would look pretty nice on it, to be honest with you. But all I'm going to do is throw this stuff on here. Try and get it all inside. And you can't see down there, but this is all end grain at the bottom, so the end grain is going to absorb even more. And there we go. So let this dry for a couple of hours, come back, put another 1 or 2 coats on this, and then do a quick sand out in between with a 300 grit, and we should be ready to use it. Well, I had a great time making this dice cup. It was fast, it was easy. I really liked the choice of the red cedar because the cedar really made it an easy project. It's light, all right, so the cup is very lightweight. It's easy to cut, easy to drill. You know, tell you what, it turned out really well, and it looks really nice. I like the grain structure in this too, by the way. But all that said, you saw me make the dice vault, okay? If you haven't, go ahead and check that out right here. And you saw me make the dice tray, right? So, and this is why I make the dice tray, because I like to roll dice and actually roll them rather than just dump them. Works perfectly. Now, if you're interested in making this, go down to see more, click the blog link, and you'll find a dimension sketch for this. You can use that, knock one of these things out, you know, pretty quickly, easy to do. Down there also is going to be a number of things, a number of tools and things that I use. Explore those. You may find something interesting or fun. Check those out. And I'd say this, if you got something out of this, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe. And hey, until next time, good making.